Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabela with Hard Lens Media, and I have a very important special guest, and I'm happy to reintroduce her to all of you guys. She is an activist, community organizer. She's been involved in a lot of elections, especially when we were starting off here at Hard Lens Media. We'd always see her there on the front lines. I am happy to reintroduce Shana East. Shana East, for our viewers and subscribers, can you give us a background to who you are and just introduce yourself to our new audience?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Who am I? Interesting question. An organizer. I've been involved in various progressive campaigns here in Chicago and across the state, and some national stuff. Movement work like the Poor People's Campaign I'm involved in right now. A lot of people know me because I was a staff member, and then I was a staff member on Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2016, and then I founded Illinois for Bernie before that in 2015, which is a grassroots campaign here in Illinois to elect Bernie as president. So I don't know, is that sufficient?
I think it's sufficient enough, because we also seen you involved in some of the early Our Revolution Illinois midterm election events as well. We saw you firsthand as you were organizing the Chicago Teachers Union debate, where it's the governor candidates who were running during that time. And we also saw you involved in some of the local municipal elections in 2019 when Mayor Lori Lightfoot got elected. Of course, you were with a different campaign, but you were involved in some aldermanic elections as well as a few of the mayoral races, mayoral candidates as well. But nonetheless, we are so glad to have you back on. So one thing I want to address out first, because I understand that this is a little bit of a sensitive topic to talk about, but recently on social media, you did mention that you are part of the DNC Rules Committee. So a lot of our viewers and subscribers, you know, there's a lot of criticism towards the DNC right now. So at least for what you can say about it, what is to be expected with the DNC Rules Committee, especially going in on it? Can you explain, like, really what's going to happen? Because right now there's a lot of, I guess, hostility and criticism towards the DNC, especially with what happened during this election cycle.
Right. So the DNC is supposed to take place in Milwaukee. It was in July, but now it's been postponed. We still don't know if it's going to be in person, virtual, some sort of hybrid. So there's a lot of sort of confusion as to what the convention's even going to look like this year. You know, of course, people online or wherever have issues with the Democratic Party. You know, I was with Bernie Sanders, who also critiqued the Democratic Party, and I think that's why it's important to have folks from Bernie's campaign represented there, so we can, you know, make sure to push progressive issues and perspective as much as we possibly can. There are limitations because of the amount of delegates.
Right.
He still hasn't, Bernie still hasn't reached the 25% threshold, where we're able to make more of an impact if he does. So we're really fingers crossed. So please tell friends in other states to still vote for Bernie, because it does matter.
Yes.
On these committees especially is where a lot of work is being done.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
Okay. There's 3 committees. Platform, which will handle sort of like the policies that are going to be put forth by the Democratic Party, like Medicare for all versus whatever Obamacare. That's going to be something, you know, I anticipate will be happening, those kind of debates on like the Democratic Party's platform. The Rules Committee basically issues a report recommending permanent rules of the convention. So we sort of set the agenda for the convention. We deal with the rules of we make amendments to the Democratic Party charter, like these sort of like technical details that really make a difference. And on that committee, the big push is going to be regarding superdelegates. Like the Unity Reform Commission a few years ago, I helped with that as well when I was doing work with Our Revolution, but I don't know if you recall, the Unity Reform Commission was put together, comprised of delegates from Bernie's campaign, Hillary's campaign, and some appointees by Tom Perez. And basically, you know, we went over things to try. The Bernie campaign was pushing more progressive reforms, and, you know, we got a lot of pushback. And the big outcome of that was that we made it so that we couldn't get superdelegates eliminated, but we were able to get superdelegates the roll minimized so that their vote supposedly would not count until the second round at the convention. So that was a pretty, you know, big accomplishment, even though it doesn't sound like it, because I know people want them to be gone. I do, but so that's going to be back on the table again because it wasn't a permanent change.
I understand.
So that's going to be like a huge thing for the Bernie campaign this time. And then among other things, people might want to talk about other issues with elections. There's going to be talk about who the officers are going to be of the DNC and stuff like that. And then the last is Credentials Committee, which talks about the seating of the delegates. So they'll go over like how many delegates were Bernie's and how many were Biden's in each state, and making sure that all that stuff is allotted properly. So in a nutshell, those are the main fights happening in the different committees. And then there's, of course, you know, the voting for the candidate, vice presidential candidate, and a lot of different meetings that people involved with the Democratic Party would have if it was in person, and it might just look completely different if
Right. And again, to be very clear, with the ever-growing risk of COVID-19, it's probably looking like the convention as a whole will probably be done online. Again, anything can change. And, of course, I would like to do a follow-up interview with you, or at least discuss with other people who were there on the ground as well, just what exactly happened. Because I think we both still have haunting memories of what happened in Philly in 2016. But I think... You know, that's
I
a
was
kind of,
there.
I think we were all there basically, and it's interesting enough. A lot of people who I've interviewed on the show have also were there in Philly as well. So that's a story perhaps for another day, maybe a special segment for Hard Lens Media. But nonetheless, I do appreciate you at least telling us a little bit about the Rules Committee and what can be expected. But I would like to talk to you perhaps later on after the convention's done,
I mean,
just what is happening. But
I'm actually feeling like it might be partially in person. So from the information I'm getting, I don't have any hard information, but it might be some sort of like hybrid thing where if it's a meeting of X amount of people, it's, I don't know. It's just very hard to organize anything when we don't know how we're going to be meeting. So stay tuned.
I think so. And I have my own opinion and criticism about the DNC and how this convention might turn out, but I am curious to see what exactly happens in the long run. But now I want to switch things up because besides being part of the Rules Committee, you've actually been really active, and I want to let our viewers know about this too. You've been active, especially in regards to community organizing and grassroots activism, and you are part of the Poor People's Campaign here within the state of Illinois. So I think it's important that we look past this election cycle and look what's going to be happening in 2022 as well as in the next city municipal election. So in regards to the Poor People's Campaign, what's exactly happening here in the state of Illinois? Because we've covered so many times that there's so much corruption, lack of accountability, and people are suffering, especially in some of the low-income communities, not only in the city of Chicago, but statewide. So can you just give us an idea, really, what are some of the areas that the Poor People's Campaign is doing here in the state of Illinois?
Sure. So just a little background. I'm on the coordinating committee for the Illinois Poor People's Campaign. And just so people are aware of what it is, the Poor People's Campaign was started originally in 1968 by Martin Luther King Jr. And on the 50th anniversary of his death is when we relaunched the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for a moral revival. You might know Reverend Barber at the national level. He's our co-chair along with Reverend Liz Theo-Harris. So they sort of started it all, and we're the committee for Illinois. Just a little bit about the campaign. We're a multiracial, multi-generational campaign founded on 5 pillars. So all the work we're doing, we relate back to these sort of planks, or whatever you want to call it, principles: ending systemic poverty, ending ecological devastation, ending the war economy, ending systemic racism, and changing the distorted moral narrative in this country. So basically, we're working in a variety of areas, like a lot of stuff now to do with COVID falls under systemic racism. I mean, falls under multiple of these. So we're right now, the big push, because it's in just a couple days, we have a huge mass meeting happening. It was going to happen in person in Washington, D.C. Like 1 million people were going to go to Washington and march on Washington. It's the Mass Poor People's Assembly and Moral March. However, this thing got in the way, you know, the pandemic and whatnot.
The pandemic, and I guess the second wave is coming as well, because now we're due for a second wave as well. So I think, I think
we're actually in the middle of the first wave.
Right.
So because of COVID, we didn't want to put any lives at risk. So we are doing it all online. It's happening on Saturday, and our goal is that it's going to be the largest digital and social media gathering of poor and low wealth people, moral and religious leaders, advocates, and people of conscience. So it's going to air twice on MSNBC at 9 a.m. Central and 5 p.m. Central this Saturday, June 20th. Right. And then there's going to be another broadcast the next day. But we're pushing because this is going to be like the big platform where we're going to launch like what's next. All right. With regards to our pillars and everything. So,
and I think it is important that we do talk about what's next, because with COVID-19, I've said this on the show numerous times, there's no cure, no vaccination yet. Here's hoping one gets developed sooner rather than later before this virus mutates into something else. But with the consequence and repercussions of this virus is that it has impacted a lot of people's wallets. A lot of people are now 40 million Americans have just filed for unemployment. There's a real risk of people being kicked out of their homes and apartments because, again, lack of paycheck, lack of resources. And, of course, you know, there's also this story going on right now where people who've been recovering from COVID-19 are stuck with a medical bill that ranges from either $100,000 to 1.1 or $1.8 million. And I can't think of anyone within my immediate social circle that has that kind of money at their disposal. So in regards to the Poor People's Campaign here in the state of Illinois, what's going to be really done to help out the working class? Because we have a city and state government that has a long sad history of just looking out for themselves.
I mean, the whole purpose of the Poor People's Campaign is that we're organizing the poor. So it's about bringing all of us together who share this perspective and saying, like, we've had enough, like, we're not going to take it anymore, and putting pressure, you know, where we need to get what, you know, our basic needs met, because they're not. I mean, people are homeless. How can they shelter in place? Right. How can they wash their hands? How can they socially distance? People in prisons, also, you can't socially distance. So we're working first to fight for those being most impacted that can't shelter in place, you know. So those are two issues, like homelessness, poverty, you know, the people being incarcerated through this time. Like, we're, you know, obviously we would want those people to be freed, so that they don't die, because people are dying. Like, basically our government is saying, you know, capitalism, human life. And they're saying, you know, capitalism is up here and we're down here, and some of us are just going to have to go, and that's the collateral damage. I mean, that's what's happening. And we're just saying, no, right. We are organizing people to shelter in place continuously. Like, don't go back to work, fight, you know, anything you can do to make it so you can work from home. So we're just doing the best we can with the people who need the most help right away. Right.
So in regards to that, and we always talk about Illinois politics, you know, and we try and at least portray at least some, because there are some good leaders in our state government and in our city governments that are really stepping up. Shout out to Andre Vasquez, and then of course, you know, who's one few city alderman that's actually doing a good thing, as well as the other individuals who are part of the Democratic Socialists of America coalition, who are really stepping up as well. But with the Poor People's Campaign here in the state of Illinois, as well as a few other groups, have you guys got any outreach from any of the local politicians in regards to addressing these issues of the threat of COVID-19, at the threat of people being evicted? Has anyone within the political class here in this state specifically, have they reached out to you guys in regards to what they can do and what kind of legislation they could put forward to protect the citizens in our state?
The way the Poor People's Campaign works is kind of reverse. We don't ask them for things. We tell them what our demands are, and we demand that they subscribe to it, if you know what I mean. We don't do the inverse. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that are going to be involved with the meeting on this Saturday, the June 20th mass assembly. I don't have that list in front of me, but we have like over 130,000 people, I believe, participating in Illinois alone. So I can get back to you on that. I'm not sure exactly which electeds, but I'm pretty sure, you know, I know we've gotten support from all of the socialist caucus, for lack of better terms, you know, Andre again, you know, Byron, Rosanna.
Right. And we've and we've respectively interviewed them on our show, and I'm very proud that they've actually got elected within the city council, because I think we both understand just how corrupt Chicago has been. And I think as an important note, because there'll be one more question followed up after this, but in regards towards people perhaps waiting in the sidelines, choosing not to get involved, because you've been involved in a lot of activism, you've been involved in a lot of political campaigns. What do you want to say to people that are right now kind of demotivated? Because here you have Trump and Biden, two senile individuals running for the highest office of the land, and I can't see a whole bunch of people being excited about that. But what do you want to say to people who are just choosing not to get involved and just turning away from politics? What do you want to say to those that are just sitting in the sidelines?
Cut the crap and let's go, because, you know, people need help now. Like, we don't have time for apathy. Like, I understand being disheartened. Like, I feel like that every time we lose a campaign, or, you know, a policy that we're pushing doesn't happen, or something happens and we're disappointed. Like, I understand that. But, like, look at all of the millions of people out in the streets. And, like, look at the pressure that we're putting, and it's actually, you know, starting to move the conversation, and we have to put even more pressure. That's not enough. The conversation isn't enough. It's not enough to make symbolic gestures like taking down a statue or painting Black Lives Matter on the street. Like, those things are great. I'm not saying they're bad, but it's symbolic. So we have to push even harder. That's what I'm saying. Like, look at all of the folks out there getting involved right now. And it's like, we all need to be joining them. It's not okay for some people to sit at home and, like, be online and just sort of complain about the DNC or whatnot. They're you know, we can be not just allies, but co-conspirators right now with folks that are, like, making a huge impact. Like, you know, Soul in Chicago, Black Lives Matter Chicago, like, do something. I mean, you can get involved by buying some medical supplies or different supplies people need, and, like, doing mutual aid. You can do things that are going to directly impact and help people who need it right now. Like, go buy a bunch of hand sanitizer and, you know, tampons and whatever supplies and food, and bring it to Brave Space Alliance, because those people are going out and then protesting and fighting. Like, there's just a million ways to get involved and not be disheartened right now. And I feel like the positive thing is that, I guess it's Generation Z, or whoever's older, younger than millennials, they're more progressive than our generation. Like, I'm the last year of Generation X, or one of the last years, and then millennials. And I feel like those kids are taking the lead in, like, many campaigns and in the streets and at protests. And I'm, like, so proud of them. They're so amazing. They're super progressive, and they're just saying like, we're not going to take this. You know, we're not going to deal with, you know, what the DNC is doing. We're not going to deal with this. We're, you know, and we're going to vote. So,
all right.
I just think there's so many things you could do to pitch in that would give you hope right now, because so many positive things are happening despite the fact that we're living in zombie apocalypse times.
Well, I wouldn't call this a zombie apocalypse. I would say this is more of our neoliberal. I think a neoliberal nightmare. So I think as a final note,
neoliberal dystopia.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But in regards to this, though, I think because a lot of people might want to learn more about the Poor People's Campaign here in the state of Illinois, as well as Illinois for Bernie Sanders, because it's been doing a lot of work outside of just with the Bernie Sanders campaign. Where can our viewers and subscribers find out more about those groups online and on social media? And are there any other events that you want to mention to our subscribers that are going to be happening within the next couple of weeks?
The big thing I want to push is the Mass Poor People's Assembly and Moral March, which is a Poor People's Campaign national gathering that's happening virtually. It's happening on June 20th, which is this Saturday. Go to june2020.org to sign up, and you'll get all the information you need to participate. Again, that's the largest digital and social media gathering of poor and low wealth people, moral and religious leaders, advocates, and people of conscience in this nation's history. So you're definitely going to love it. I think your audience specifically will dig it, and it won't make them feel hopeless. They'll think, DNC what? They'll think about, you know, all the stuff other people are doing, and it will be very exciting. The Illinois Poor People's Campaign's website is Illinois, the word spelled out, ppc.org. So definitely sign up there. I've been hosting statewide calls that happen regularly. They've been happening bi-weekly during the shelter in place, but now we're going to start doing them monthly starting June 1st. So definitely sign up on our website and attend our monthly statewide calls, and then you'll learn more about what we're doing here specifically and how to plug in. Illinois for Bernie, we're in a transition phase because, well, right now we're just helping organize the Illinois delegation to the DNC, just getting folks the information they need, coordinating, that kind of stuff. But we're sort of in a what's next period. But you can also check out our website, Illinois4Bernie.org, and all of these groups are all on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So go there as well.
All right. Well, that's a fantastic note to end it on. Thank you so much for joining us, Shana East. Clearly, the fight for a better future is going to be an uphill climb, whether it's working for or supporting organizations like Poor People's Campaign, or supporting third parties, or running or helping out supporting progressives or independents that are running for office. The point is we have to get involved. And I know that we saw you in the beginning stages of Hardlands Media, and here you are still continuing that good fight. And the thing is, this fight is not going to be easy, but we have to keep pushing forward. I want to thank all our viewers and subscribers who are joining us today for the show, as well as this interview. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.